The strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk and is in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. John Cyndia is an investment advisor representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Services Corp., member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. Life Stages Advisory, Dean, and Remington are not affiliated with USA Financial Securities. Welcome to the 22nd episode of WTF, Wealth, Taxes, and Finances. I'm your host, John Cyndia, certified public accountant, personal financial specialist. I've got Remington in the studio with me.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about data breaches and loss of your vital personal information. Sounds interesting. We're gonna have fun today, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I want to say is this is our first attempt for the video recording while we're doing the podcast. We plan on hosting these and presenting them on YouTube, hopefully in the not too distant future. So we'll be giving you information about that as we go. But in the meantime, bear with us. Just like our podcasts, we're just trying to get all the kinks out here and seeing exactly how we're going to work this out and make sure everything is for everybody out there and it's informative. Plus, you'll get to see what we actually look like, okay, instead of just talking heads.
Yeah, please don't unsubscribe.
Yes. So anyway, what is this data breach thing? You know, what? Just some basics. Give me a couple of things that we're looking at. We're going to talk about today.
Well, you've got things such as like the phishing scams.
Okay.
You've got the like unsecure passwords or the weak passwords that lead to people gaining access to accounts. You've got malware that people can send over to you, try and steal, like put a bunch of viruses on your computer, lead to stealing all of your info.
Okay.
You said there's like human error that is also involved with a lot of this stuff too. I mean, you had a few things written down.
Yeah. What we want to do today is tell you how it happens, tell you where that information goes, and then how can we prevent that. So we've got quite a few different little topics, and then we're going to expand on that as we go. The main types of breaches, as Rem was saying, there's a physical breach, which is actually getting into laptops and your computers and your other digital devices. Electronic breaches then is through the software, and that's probably what everybody's used to on the email side of it and everything. And they break into your personal information. And then finally, the skimming.
Yeah.
And everything that you see at, maybe like gas stations or for the credit card from the restaurants and things like that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what's the difference between phishing on the email and then some of the skimming on the credit cards?
Well, with the email phishing, it could be anything along the lines like if you work for company A and you get a somewhat suspicious looking email from the CEO of the company, but maybe his name's spelled wrong, or it's the CEO's name at Yahoo or gmail.com. And it's asking you for either like company information or, hey, I need you to approve this transaction. And they just try to sneak it by you, impersonating someone at the company to try and get your info or gain access.
Yeah, and I've had a few of those. It would be like mine is jcyndia@lifestagesadvisory.com, but I've seen some that would be like jcyndia12 at Life Events or something like that. It's going to be totally different. And until you're acute and aware enough of exactly what that looks like, it could be a little bit difficult, just the way that they hide everything.
Yeah, and one thing that people tend to do a lot is if it's someone's name with like an M, they might do like RN because the spacing makes it look like an M, or they might add an extra L or just mess with the typing of it to try and get those to blend together to try and fool you on there. Or like I said before, they might do the full actual name at just some like dummy burner email account to try and sneak it by you.
Gotcha. And then on the skimming, that's dealing with, I guess they're stealing the swipe of the credit card or the debit card.
And this can range from anything being like if you go to the gas station, which you should always, whenever you're somewhere you're not familiar with, just give the card swipers a little jiggle, see if it comes loose, see if anything. Obviously, don't break it, but just give it a quick little jiggle. If it pops off, you should probably report that. But essentially, what it does is it can steal your card information through a swipe. And I've seen it before where you can get, if it's a credit card or like a bus pass or anything that has your info, they can pull up your name, your address. Sometimes they can get your banking info, your address, all that private information you thought was secure. They can just take that instantly.
And I think it's interesting that it's not just personal, but it's also business information that is, that is stolen. And if people would remember, I think Yahoo had like 3 billion.
Yeah.
Yahoo had something. Equifax had something stolen. It was all the information. Target, there were several other ones that had that, but they're in the hundreds of millions. JP Morgan, I think, had another breach for about 80, 90 million. And what they're looking at, they get your social security numbers, they get your date of birth, they'll get your address, they'll also get credit card information, banking information. So there's a multitude of criteria that they look for. And then, what happens to it from there once they steal it? I mean, is it sold? Is it
sometimes they can steal it. They with the skimming aspect, a lot of times what happens is people will just stockpile all of that information because you might not even know that your account's been compromised, and they'll just sit on it and they'll kind of make a whole like collective package of all this credit card information. They'll just sell that in bulk to the highest bidder, and
that's on the dark web, right?
Yeah, and sometimes what happens with that is you've got people that they'll buy these massive blocks of information. Maybe 80% of it has already been canceled, or the banks have been like, hey, we've got some suspicious activity, but there might be that 20% of it that's still active and usable. So it's kind of like a shot in the dark with what you're buying. But
the dark web also is just about any criminal that's out there, right? I mean, it could be different governments. It could be, for a multitude of things, not only robbers and crooks and thieves or whatever, but it's anything illegal is going on is what's called the dark web. Correct?
Yeah, and not just like banking information, but they could steal personal information. Like if your Social Security gets compromised, they can, like you were saying with the whole Equifax scenario, all of that stuff there's like 50 to 100 million people that had their Social Security compromised, and that was just out there.
Oh yeah, it was like 145, 150 million on Equifax. Yeah, that was major. That was major.
And so they can sell pretty much anything and everything on there that is your personal information. I know on a more like personal note here, the company that I work for, they had some data breaches just recently where it wasn't the employees, it was the truck drivers that worked in partner with the company. There was some sort of breach in the security for this new program we rolled out, and I looked it up. There was upwards of like 150,000, if I'm not mistaken. People had their banking information compromised, their Social Security, all their stuff. They had a lot of people lost a lot of the stuff for their retirement, and they didn't even know that until a few weeks because, like I said, they were just sitting on all this information, just waiting to build all of it up and just start selling it out.
Wow. And, I think what people have to be aware of with this is not just on your computers, because everybody's on their phones a lot, and the data can be stolen from there because they're allowing I think it's just allowing too many people with too much access to yourself, whether it's on the through email or whether it's through some of the different apps like Facebook or Twitter or whatever. Those are all susceptible. Facebook got hacked too, so, from that standpoint.
And there's a lot of websites out there that they can kind of throw those targeted ads. Like if you're shopping around and you're trying to find something, they might have some like bootleg or counterfeit version of that product that you're scrolling through. You see, I'm looking for that. Oh, wow, it's only $4 instead of being $100. Let me see that. You click in there, you order it, you buy it, but you're putting all your personal, like, private information in there, and they essentially have full access to all your account information now.
Yeah, and I think when you go back into talking about passwords, a lot of people will just, use their name or date of birth or something stupid and whatever. But what I've seen lately is the fact that rather than trying to use so many different types of capital letters and numbers and symbols and whatever, that they're actually using phrases like Mary had a little lamb in a red Buick or something like that. Nobody's going to tell, what that was. You may forget it. So you're going to have to write it down, and probably don't put it on a Post-it note on your computer again,
I want to say that they just changed the actual number, because for the longest time, I think it was just common to have, for a secure password, it was going to be something between 10 to 15 characters, but you want to have like capitals, you want to have symbols, numbers, a whole mix in there, to where it's not essentially like your dog's name or your parents' name or your street name. It's just gibberish that you're throwing in there.
Right.
And I think they just bumped that up to something like 30. You want to have it to be like 25 to 30 characters long for it to be like as secure as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. There are little different apps out there. I'd seen one on our tax program that I think once you get past 15, it becomes into the multiple billions of chances for anybody to hack that. So the longer it is, the better.
Yeah, and that's another thing too with the data breaches and everything. People can just brute force it to where if there's not a system put in place where it's like, oh, you've typed in your password 6 times incorrect, we locked you out. If they don't have that put in place, they can just, like, countless tries. They could have like word generators, whatever they can possibly come up with to just put thousands and thousands of inputs in. So
sure. And a couple of the other things to stop the skimming situation. If you're use credit cards. If you don't use a credit card, you have a debit card. I always go and do the credit portion. I hit the credit button on that because that will limit you normally to $50. And it's usually, if you're in there between 24 and 72 hours, you're limited to that. If it's after that, then I think it goes up to maybe 500.
Yeah, you're talking about the liability.
Yeah.
If your information gets stolen.
Yeah. So if they have a lot of purchases or something, then and if you let it go for, I don't know if it's a couple of weeks, 30 days, whatever, then it becomes unlimited, and then it could be a little bit of a tricky situation for you to get that money back.
But if you're not reporting that your card or your information was stolen a week to a month after the fact, that's...
Yeah, and what I've done with the credit cards and the bank accounts is, and I'm looking at my stuff, a couple times a day sometimes, just to look at from the business, from the cash flow perspective.
Yeah.
And when I look at that, I also get alerts. So I've been on vacation and I've gotten an alert, and it's like, no, I am here. But normally I'll call the bank up and let them know I'm heading out somewhere. But I
forgot to do that one time. We got all the way down to Florida, and I was like, oh, I'm going to buy some food and a T-shirt while we're down here.
Nah, no, you're not.
Swipe the card. Lady came back. She's like, yeah, no, your card was declined. You might want to call your bank, see what's going on. Called them like, yeah, we thought somebody stole your card and just went on a joyride down to Florida, so we locked your whole account. You got to wait a few days now.
Yeah, that was like Dean this morning trying to get some orange juice and cookies for breakfast. He only had $5 on him, and he tried to get $7 worth of stuff, and the credit cards were down. So that's Dean behind the camera, by the way. Hi, Dean. I just woke him up. Anyway, yeah, the other thing is that the banks have been doing is, and a lot of the other places, is a secondary authentication or multi-factor authentication, and it's a pain in the butt sometimes, but I know, like, trying to get on, it always says, is this your personal device? And it's like, yeah, register it. Well, about the 5th time I go in, it's like, yeah, they still ask me the same stupid questions. So they never registered it, but they do say, oh, do you want a text? Do you want it emailed or whatever? We'll give you a phone call. And then they do that. They give you 3 to 6 digits or alphabets that you put in.
Yeah.
And then it finally lets you in.
And with the multi-step authorization and all that stuff, I think not even just for your banking information, you should really try and get that set up with almost everything you use. Because I've had friends that just with like their video games, like their accounts have been hacked into. And I mean, there's nothing too sensitive with that stuff, but I mean, I'd rather not have to worry about my information being stolen.
Sure.
And just setting up that 2-step authorization, not too hard to do. Just keeps it's peace of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what we want to do is, wrap this session up. We're going to get into a couple other smaller, detailed segments for you that's going to dive a little further into the skimming and a few of these things that are more common, but yet you may not have heard about them, or they have, and you really don't know what they are. So we'll get into a little bit more detail in that. But until next time, we want to say thank you. Vote for it. What do we do on YouTube? They have to say, yeah, they like us and all that stuff.
Yeah, just
you can tell I'm new at this, right?
Yeah, you just basically want to have everybody like, comment, like just if they have any questions or something that they're dying to know, just leave a comment, like it, share it, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Should I comb my hair differently the next time or whatever? See, and you can tell right now that, yeah, there's not much of it up there. So anyway, we want to have a good time with this. We hope you guys tune in. Any suggestions you have for topics or whatever, we'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Have a good one.